What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome to Not Your Status Quo. Tonight, we are going to break down and review The Flash. This is going to be filled with spoilers, so if you haven't seen it, well, you should probably just stay anyway. You don't want to sit through this movie, but
If you haven't
there
seen
will be.
it, watch us first.
Right, right. So, Keith was just saying before this that, he thought that he was going to like this movie. And really, I thought he was going to too. In fact, I said to Dave, I'm like, if anybody is going to have a silver lining, I thought for sure it would be Keith. And I was going back and forth over the weekend. I'm like, was I too harsh? Maybe I was, I don't know, maybe I was just thinking really negative. Like, I wasn't super hyped about the movie going into it. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I let it get the better of me because I even was like going back and forth while we were giving our amphitheater review, which you should totally check out if you haven't watched it already on youtube.com, not your status quo. But anyway, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, well, it's probably an average movie. I'm just overly negative about it. I'll give it a 5. And then, like, in that moment, I thought to myself, no, I cannot, in good faith, give it even an average vote. And the more I've been thinking about it, and the more that I'm seeing, the clips, and I'm being reminded, at one point, and you two gentlemen know that I almost never do this, at one point, I got up to go use the restroom because I was just like, I'm not going to miss anything.
He did. When he got up, I'm like, he doesn't like this movie at all.
Nope. No.
Like, why is he going to the bathroom? Because he doesn't like it.
I mean, the first scene, one of my cardinal sins in a movie is when I don't like the main character. And they made Barry so unlikable, from the first scene. And it's funny because later in the movie, first Barry, I don't know what to call him, first Barry is telling second universe Barry how annoying he is. And I'm like, so they know it, and they're still putting us through this.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. The very first scene, from the beginning of the movie. So, yes, let's get the elephant out of the room. Allegedly, cover us. Allegedly, Ezra Miller committed all of the crimes as fast as he could, as fast as the speed of light, racing around the world, trying to turn himself into Reverse Flash as quickly as he could. And from that first scene where what looked like a teenage girl calling out to Flash was just like, oh no, please don't abduct her.
Yeah,
scene.
we actually said that in the theater.
Dave and I looked at each other like, oh boy, I hope he doesn't invite her to Iceland.
And this is one of my major nitpicky things about the film. Why does he have to get in a pose every time before he's about to take off running? I'm like,
right.
Why is he doing that? I'm like, this is the silliest choice they made in the movie. In a movie where they made a lot of bad choices. And I was like, I didn't like his character. And then he's doing that weird pose before he can take off running. I'm like, oh my God, it started off in a very deep hole. And then the whole baby scene where...
The baby shower?
So stupid.
Yeah, the where he's like, oh, I'm starving, it's critical. So he's like breaking into vending machines and cooking burritos and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know if it's because I'm annoyed with how it's already started, but a hero would save every baby as quickly as he could, and then maybe like be collapsed and someone has to bring him, a piece of toast or some orange slices.
This version of Flash was so unlikable. Like, everything about him, I'm just like, he's so difficult to get behind. Like, I was trying to think of if he reminded me of any variation of the Flash at all, because that was not any version of Barry Allen that I knew. Not at all. And I thought for a minute, I'm like, well, maybe they're trying to do like a Justice League Wally West version of Flash where, he was... And then I'm like, well, no, because even that guy, he was definitely a hero. He was a bit of a, during the Justice League animated series, he sold out once or twice, but he learned his lesson pretty quick. He was definitely very interested in spending more time with the ladies of the Justice League, but at the end of the day, he was a hero, and he did the right thing, and he always saved the day. And he did that constantly. And they even, brought that idea of him back when they added him to Young Justice. That Wally West, a hero, gave his life, disappeared into the Speed Force. Like there's, and so this version of Barry Allen, which I have not found in, I don't recall in any of the comics and any of the animated series. I'm like, I don't know who they were trying to emulate, and then I thought, well, maybe they're trying to have him be, oh my gosh, what's his name again? Bart Allen. Maybe they're trying to have him be like Bart Allen, who was a bit, unhinged and kind of bouncing off the walls. And I'm like, no, but even he wasn't that annoying. So, like, I don't know what they were going for.
And before we get past the opening scene, right when the movie started, and the dude, I mean, I know, and I
the coffee shop.
Yeah, I was just talking to Keith about this. They start right off with a situation that they wanted to be funny. I could tell, that's why they put it in the movie. And he walks up, he's like, "Hey, listen, I'm late. Can you make this sandwich for me? I'm running late." And the dude is just, behind the counter. It was supposed to be comedy, but I think we've all been in that situation where we're running late, and you say, "Hey, dude, can you help me out and make this?" And he's like, "You can't rush this sandwich." I would lean over and smack him in the face, man. So instead of laughing at that, I just became irritated immediately, because I'm like, "Yeah, man, what's he doing? What's he with the sandwich?" And then when he went outside and he did what Keith said, the pose, and then he stops and talks to the girls, and then he does the pose. Why is he doing the pose again? Just go. And then I don't know. And how the CGI was so bad with the baby shower.
Oh, man.
And all I thought of during that scene was Quicksilver in Days of Future Past.
Oh, and how much better it was?
Yeah, how much that scene was so much better than this scene. And it's like, he's just saving people. So, all right, make it really cool. And they couldn't do it. They were just, it looked like they were just copying it. And they just couldn't pull it off. Very poorly.
Well, the director said...
That meme? Have you guys seen that meme? Like, hey, can I copy your homework? Yeah, but just change it up so it doesn't look the same.
The director said they did this to the CGI on purpose because when Barry is like running at that speed and that fast, things look distorted. If that's a choice you made and you thought it was a good choice, damn, that guy should not be directing anything else, or if he is, should be second guessed by all the executives, because that having the two Barrys too in the movie I thought was a terrible idea. It didn't make much sense. It didn't add anything to the story.
No.
And it was, the worst part of it was when they were both on screen at the same time, you could tell one was CGI because it was like PlayStation 2 graphics. It took me out of every scene they were both in because I'm just like, oh God, that's so bad. How did this get to the theater looking this bad?
I don't get it, because I really truly think, and I said this, I think I said this during our At the Theater review, and I know I said this to Dave and to Stefano, but I guarantee that there was a wholly different cut of this movie, and that all the people that saw it, a year ago or whatever at Comic-Con, that were saying, "Oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing we've ever seen. It is so amazing. Everybody's going to love it." I was sitting there thinking, maybe that was a good cut of the movie. But I could tell in so many places during this film where the original bones of the movie had been, and where they had refilmed some dumb joke, or the stance, or the coffee shop scene, or the terrible CG babies. It was just like, you could tell a lot of the stuff had to have been last minute. Oh my God, it's not funny enough. We need to make people laugh.
I was telling Dave before this, I laughed at one. None of the jokes were good. They all fell flat to me. I only laughed one time.
That's where, Doug.
Where?
when George Clooney showed up at the end, and he's like, "What the?" I was like,
rolled my eyes at that one. You know what? I laughed. You will not. You may not get it, but I laughed at the baby shower. I did not laugh for the reason they wanted me to laugh. I laughed because it was so terrible. It was the only response that I could conjure up. I was just like, what the hell are we watching? Only I didn't say hell.
well, that's why I laughed at. I thought that was Ezra Miller's gut reaction to the movie he just put out. He's like, what the frick?
Yeah.
Oh, we got an absolutely in the chat.
Ooh.
See that. An Attack on Show.
Nice.
I watched your review as well, and I 100% agree. I think I said it to Doug at the theater about whether you feel confident in James Gunn's opinions now. I 100% agree with you. You know, for the most part, I think he's right. But after this, I don't know. It kind of taints it a little bit.
I don't know either. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I will trust him to write movies well and direct them well, but I'm starting to really, hit them saying that the director, Andy whatever, who's made, he made It Part 1, It Part 2, which I thought were both directed well. I didn't like the fact they split up the time difference. Oh, Mighty Mage, thank you for the subscribing. We appreciate it.
I subscribed to nothing. Not
you got to
fair.
send a message, Dave. But, I thought It 1 and Part 2 were both directed well. I didn't like them, having the sort of all of the old in the first and then all the young kids in the second, because I thought the story worked a lot better when it interwove between both stories.
Mm-hmm.
But if James Gunn hired him because of what he did in The Flash for Batman the Brave and the Bold, I hope it's something along the lines like he was so easy to do this for the movie and James Gunn could manipulate him into making the movie he wanted instead of I can't think of any other reason. Because seeing that Flash movie and
all right, yeah, okay, so we should be fair that it's not all of the director's fault. Obviously, he's going to direct what he's given. He didn't write the film.
Very true.
It's a team of people that are all involved in making it happen. And while it's real simple to want to put your finger at just a single director or a single producer, it's very easy to point our fingers at Warner for allowing these travesties to even happen in the first place. But
I'm certainly not just blaming the director, Doug. I blame the writer. I blame the studio. How a film this bad made it to the theaters is beyond me.
I don't know. And so we got to the baby shower scene, right? And I'm thinking, okay, there's no way that it's going to get worse than this. Like, this must have been just some last minute reshoot thing. They had to have tacked it on. There's no way it's going to get worse. And then the movie just kept going. And I would say that the only decent part, and I'm pretty sure Dave and Attack on Show, I'm sure you all agree, I would say the best part was probably Michael Keaton as Batman.
Definitely was.
And I will give him this as well. He was not phoning it in like the AI voice generator that was Vulture at the end of Morbius. So, hey, kudos to him for that, I guess.
Well, no, he stole every scene he was in.
Yeah,
I mean, he was fantastic. So, I had one Batman scene that I didn't like, and I thought it was out of character. When they went back in time in the final battle, and said, "Bruce, don't crash the Batwing into that." He goes, "Oh, Roger that." I just pulled up. I'm like, Batman's not going to listen to anybody. He knows.
Right.
He's like, I know what's best for this scene, and I'm going to do it. So when he did that, I was like, okay, that's a little. They wanted to save Batman, but I was like, that's a bad choice. You don't do it like that.
Yeah, and I struggled with it, but I realized at that point he didn't know that kryptonite affected those guys. He didn't know that yet. And I was like, why isn't he got any kryptonite? Because, he had no idea. So.
Yep, because Supergirl was raised in Russia, and Zod just got to the planet.
I've got words to say about that, but again, we immediately jump to the end like we always do.
Yeah, I've been holding back. I've been trying to keep it in my mind
a little bit.
So we can go. Yeah. So what? The next thing that happened, we got past the baby shower scene, right?
Yeah.
So now we're going to.
We've got Flash trying to convince Bruce why it's totally okay for him to change the time into time travel.
No, you skipped the part.
Oh, did I? Oh.
Where he goes, he goes into work, and the guy tells him, "You're late again." And
right.
There's that familiar thing, and it was always on. Go ahead, get ready, hit the button key. It was always on Smallville that Clark was really fast, but he was always late. So they took that, and they now they amplified it in the Flash. That
I was going to say that.
Fast.
That isn't necessarily just a Superman thing. That always was a Flash thing, too.
Yeah, and the thing about that was the two people that he worked with, the girl and the guy, I don't even know the names.
Assholes?
But, yeah, assholes. Those are not his friends.
No.
Why are they treating him like that? And then Iris West comes over as he walks out of the building, acting like she's never, I barely remember you from high school.
That is what we call an exposition dump. She was just vomiting exposition at him. Hi, do you remember me? I'm Iris West, and we went to high school together, and I'm a reporter now, and I'm doing this story all about your father. And it's like, whoa. It's like, okay, you could not think of a better way to just shove her in. All right, that'll explain where we're at in the movie. Okay, go, read your lines. I'm looking at like, what the hell just happened? I was hit at 60 miles per hour by this script because I couldn't figure out a better way to explain what was happening currently in the movie. Like, okay, let's see. We did baby in the microwave. We had him ask for a sandwich. His coworkers are dicks. Oh God, what do we do now? We really need to get this story back on track.
Oh yeah, Iris West, who had, if she was not in the movie, wouldn't have affected it at all.
Not really.
Inconsequential part.
Yeah, and that's really sad because she was a big part of the actual Flashpoint series, the actual the comic books and the animated movie.
She wasn't a part of the comic books at all.
I thought she
or
was.
Very little.
Well, I mean, when he goes back and realizes that he's not with her.
Right.
That's what I mean. So it was like it was a moment for him to realize, oh my God, I really changed time. That was his thing, like because in the comics and in the animated movie, I think he was already in a relationship with Iris. So the fact that he when he time traveled and realized, oh, I'm not anymore. That was like his first indication that, oh, dude,
really
okay, I screwed something up.
Yeah, no, his
Because
first
the real
indication in
Barry
the
Allen was
comics.
supposed to be smart.
Yeah, well, in the comic books, the first thing he realizes he's not the Flash because he goes to run and he falls down the
That's true.
stairs, and then his mom's there. But yeah, he's no longer dating Iris. They just made an incredible amount of bad decisions in this movie. It seemed like
They did.
they had a chance to do something really memorable, and they made it memorable for the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless they were trying to make Black Adam look like a good movie. I can't. The hierarchy of power has changed in the DC.
So here's what I think they were attempting to do. I think they were trying to clean up the DC Expanded Universe. And the best way to do that, let's do a Flashpoint. It always worked in the comics, we can reset things. But they never had an origin story for the Flash, and he's one of the big-time members of the Justice League. They've done an origin for Superman. They screwed the pooch on Batman, and they figured, okay, well, but you know what? Most people know about his origin story. We have seen his parents die. We have seen his parents die 800 times, and we even joked about it in the Harley Quinn animated series. So
Which
I
did
think
it
we're
the
good,
best.
But we have not done a movie version of Flash's origin. And since he's one of the founding members of the Justice League, we really should. And so I think they wanted to do both. And that's why they did the weird time travel shenanigans where he went so far back in time that he ended up meeting a past version of himself, which that doesn't happen in Flashpoint.
Nope. It definitely does not.
I also wanted to mention, I think it was before the scene that he went to the to work with, when Batman. I thought Ben Affleck's Batman scenes were just like unnecessary as well. And how many are they just going to take Gal Gadot and put her in every freaking movie for like 2 seconds? It's so dumb. And then of course they went with the stupid joke of the lasso.
The lasso truth, yeah.
The truth lasso.
I'm sorry, we skipped past. I totally forgot about that.
And that was everything everybody said there was just like, I don't even think they would say it if they were, I don't even think they would have that thought in their head at that moment.
Yeah, no.
Well, the
It was
lasso
just a
truth
joke.
works like you ask them a question, they have to tell the truth. They don't
Yeah.
just start saying things that would
Spewing
embarrass
stuff, yeah.
themselves.
Exactly. So why would he talk about being a virgin?
I don't know. I do not know.
An Attack on Show makes a point we have made all the time. Why is it the DC animated movies are so good and they can't translate that into live action? I wish we had the answer for you because we have
Yeah.
said the same thing. They just can't seem to get it right in live action. I really hope that changes with the actual DCU, Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. I hope Creatures Commandos comes out and it's entertaining and it gets this terrible taste out of our mouth for what the DCEU has been.
So speaking of that, for a while I was really down on Spider-Man because I wasn't very happy with the direction the movies were going. For instance, the Raimi Spider-Man movies. I know that this is a big faux pas. I'm not supposed to say this because the people march at dawn, light the torches. I didn't like number 2 that much. It was just okay. It wasn't the greatest Spider-Man movie ever. I did not like 3. I did not like either of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I thought 1 was better than 2, but that was kind of a low bar. And when I went to the theater, with ticket in hand, sat down on my seat to watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I had a similar reaction that I did with The Flash. I was watching that scene in the opening where he's bouncing around the back of the truck, and he's juggling this hazardous chemical. And the first thought that crossed my mind is, the Spider-Man cartoons are so good, they thought, you know what, the only way we're going to make this work is we need to turn the live-action movie into a friggin' cartoon. And that's how I felt about The Flash. There are so many times where I'm sitting there. Did we get an absolutely? Oh. You're like holding the bottle up. I'm like, oh.
We did now.
Now we did, yeah. But no, Sierra got me this for Father's Day, this crazy water, so I wanted her to see that I was drinking it.
But yeah, as we're watching The Flash, that thought kept crossing my mind. I'm like, they know that they must know. Somebody must know somewhere that there is no way that they can translate this properly to a live-action movie, so they keep turning it into a cartoon at every point. And I thought that when we saw the babies in the microwave. I thought that when we were listening to the dumb joke with the lasso of truth on the bridge. I'm just like, it's a cartoon. They don't care, and it's not even a good cartoon. Because I've seen the Flashpoint cartoon. It's good.
Much better than this movie. And even when, he is back in time and he walks into his parents' house and his parents are alive and he's like just saying the weirdest things. And I'm like, oh my God. Why? Stop.
How much of
I
that
hate
was
this character
just
so much.
Regular Ezra Miller, just being Ezra Miller.
You think it was that?
Probably was quite a bit.
That's what I think.
I don't know. The flashback scene to give him his origin was, all right, okay. That was actually kind of in line with the comics, how his mom died. They didn't have, Reverse Flash. They didn't have anything to do with Reverse Flash in there.
No.
So but that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, you know what? I expect that. We said that when we were doing our Theory Palooza for this. We've come to expect it with the MCU that some of these movies are going to switch things up. A lot of times they want to tell a different story. And that's fine. I can get past that. It doesn't have to be exactly like the comic. But I
Right.
mean, kind of try to nail the characters a little bit.
And well, I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead here, but when he meets his younger selves or his alternate timelines roommates, that whole scene was supposed to be funny. Not once. I don't even think I cracked a smile. I think I just sat there and shook my head.
It was
at how
annoying.
stupid
It annoyed me.
Hey, that's upside down. No, it isn't. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God. That's like
my
jokes
God.
that I expect out of my 7-year-old. Like him and his school buddies think are funny because they haven't experienced much of life. I was like,
Yeah.
this, man, so poorly executed, so poorly written.
I 100% agree with that. That whole scene was just like I think it might have been the worst part of the movie. That scene right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might have
Well,
been.
I don't know. So what Keith had brought up, where he went back and where he was mentioning in the comic, where the first thing that he realizes when he goes back in time is that he's not the Flash, doesn't have his powers. That's a common thread in every retelling of the Flashpoint story. Every time they do a Flashpoint, that's one of the things that happens. He goes back in time and he changes something to the point where he's not the Flash anymore. He loses his powers because he ends up finding out that, again, the whole butterfly effect thing, the fact that his mother died and his father went to prison, it's what caused him to go work at the police station to get into forensics because he wanted to free his father because he was innocent from killing his mother. So
You
he
could
wanted to
say-
do that, and that's what caused him to be into the accident in the first place.
You could say it's a canon event.
You could say it's a canon event, in this case especially. And so for the fact that he went back in time and he still had his powers, and the way that he lost them was because he transferred them somehow to his younger self, which that's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. Like, I mean, I know we're
Unfortunately.
talking about a fictional superhero origin story, but no. You got it wrong.
Yeah, I just kind of like threw my head back when it's like, oh, dude, I got my powers now. How do I do that shaky thing? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, that was the worst use of recreating the Flash that has ever been done. I was like, God, why am I still here? Why am I still sitting in this theater?
For the channel. Got to do it for the channel.
Yeah,
for the channel.
yeah.
For the channel, Keith. Do it for the channel.
I only hope that your guys at the theater review push some people away from seeing it this weekend to save them, you know.
I'll tell you what. When we were seeing it, there was a lady in the row in front of us who, for at least 10 to 15 minutes, was watching her phone.
Yeah.
She had her phone up like this, and she was just watching videos on her phone. And you know what? At first, I was annoyed. Like, why are you doing that in the theater? But then I was like,
Same.
she's probably having more fun watching these videos than this movie.
Yep. I thought the same thing as you. I was just like, at first, I'm like, who the hell watches their phone in the theater? And then I was like, oh, this movie. Okay, that makes sense. Good for you.
Yeah,
Good idea.
Tack on Show makes a good point. How do they know what chemicals to actually, you know, spill on him?
See, they don't, because this version of Barry, as I pointed out, is an idiot. He's a moron. He doesn't know. And so for them to try and reset that up in the Batcave made no damn sense. That's sorry. I jumped
Zero.
ahead again.
No, we can jump ahead. I mean, at this point, I don't
Alright,
think we have
let's
to
talk about
discuss.
Supergirl.
Hmm?
Let's talk about Supergirl if we're going to jump ahead.
Oh, this annoyed me so much, you guys. Okay. I don't know why they felt that they had to take her out of being imprisoned in America. I don't know if there is some sort of, like, yeah, I don't know if there was someone somewhere that was like, you can't do this, you cannot show America in a bad light. And it's like, yeah, but this was in the Flashpoint story where they had imprisoned this, no, you got to take her and put her somewhere else. And okay, well, I guess we're fighting Russia right now, or we're against Russia, so let's have her. We're gonna do Red Sun, sort of.
I was going to say that's why they did it. You know, guys, Red Sun was a really good comic. It was, you know, got accolades and everything. Let's have her be in Russia. Because in the Flashpoint comic, Superman or Kal-El crashes in Metropolis, not in Smallville, Kansas. And that's
Right.
why the government gets them, because
Yep.
it took out buildings and it was a huge event.
Yep.
It didn't just crash land in a field where the parents grabbed them and no one knew.
Mm-hmm.
They could have easily done that here. So, I was thinking the same thing. Why did they choose that outside of some executive going, Red Sun really did a good job. Let's give them a little Easter egg and have it a Russian thing.
It had to have been a mix between we're angry at Russia right now and also Red Sun was good. But that's like her being in Russia is where it stopped. That's where they ended, because even Dave was like, why is she speaking English? Why isn't she speaking Russian? Why does she have a perfect American accent? I'm like, man, they don't care. That's
She
why.
would speak one of two languages, Kryptonian or Russian. She would not speak English.
And she didn't even have a Russian accent. And they didn't even try to go that route. They were just like, no, just whatever. Russia is a backdrop for no reason.
See, and I agree with Tech on Show. I thought Sasha Calle did a good job as Supergirl. She was one of the better parts of the movie. Like, the way they wrote her character into it,
She did good.
yeah, was not good. But she was an enjoyable part of it. One of the few parts I enjoyed about the movie.
Yeah, she was.
But you're
more
right,
good
the whole-
watching Ezra
Oh, God. Every
flail
single
around
one.
like an idiot.
Who knows eyebrows?
Yeah, she was a badass. In fact, I
don't
think
fault her
I
for that.
like her version of a. I'm just going to call this. I know that it's not correct, but I'm going to call this entire section of DC, starting with Man of Steel up until the Flash, the Snyder DC verse. I know that's not completely correct, but they all kind of, they contain the same characters. I like this version of a Superman character more so than I liked the Man of Steel and Justice League Superman. Like, I know a lot of people love Henry Cavill, fine to a point, but I never really connected with his version of Superman in any of the movies. Not in Man of Steel, not in Justice League, or even the Justice League Snyder Cut. Or definitely not Batman v Superman. There was nothing there that I was just like, I don't like this version. I like Supergirl, even though technically I feel like she should have been a Superwoman, but whatever.
And, the fact that I think they made her Russian, or captured by Russian too, because then when she gets to that final battle, when she's battling like the American planes, they're like, oh, she doesn't know we're the good guys. And I was like, they're attacking her. Of course she's going to fight back. I mean, the one thing I do like the way they wrote it is when she got to and I know we actually got pretty far into this before we got to the final, but in that final battle, when she found out that Kal-El didn't survive, her anger just rose up, and that I thought that I was like, okay, excellent, this is well done. She didn't have the Kansas people raising her, teaching her how to the correct way to behave and how to treat other people. So that part I liked, but once again, you're right.
Yeah.
She's stuck in a cage for 20 some years, and she comes out speaking perfect English. And Dave made a good point earlier, which I think she must have shown her powers early on. That's why they put her in a cage, because they couldn't control her. But she seemed to have complete use of all of her powers as soon as she got into the sun.
How did they figure out the whole red sunlight thing was no explanation whatsoever?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, if she got captured right away, she wouldn't know she had powers. So she had to have displayed those powers at some point.
Yeah.
But, on Krypton, they don't have powers. They're regular people.
Oh, yeah.
So they come here. So did she know ahead of time before coming to Earth that she was going to have powers? Because,
no,
she came here,
I don't
when
think
she gets here, she's a teenager. She's not like Clark. She was older. So did she display those powers? And how did they catch her if she did display those powers? They didn't have kryptonite. How did they stop her? In order to get her?
My assumption is one of two things. Either she was wearing a suit like Zod was, and so she was already handicapped, or she crashed so hard it knocked her out, and they just captured her right away. Now, how they held her, don't know.
If they captured her right away, she wouldn't know she had powers.
Yeah. I guess, but then, like, wouldn't she have... I feel like she would have felt something, like, oh, man, I feel lighter, I feel stronger, or something would have been a giveaway. I don't know. We're getting way too deep and pedantic over their horrible portrayal of a Superwoman character. I mean, again, the character herself was okay. The story around it was bad. They could have done
The
a
only
lot more
thing,
work.
the other thing I did like about her story is that while the beginning of the fight, using her anger to get the upper hand on Zod, but him being a seasoned, you know, combat, he just waited his time, and then he knew what he was doing, and he ended up defeating her, unfortunately, rather easily. I was like, good, I'm glad they handled it that way, because that's the right way it should play out. But
Yeah.
outside of that, yes, not much. Really good done.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately.
So,
And then once again,
the one of the other things that I had noticed. So, first off, I loved Michael Keaton. I already said this. I loved Michael Keaton as Batman. I like how they portrayed him as being intelligent. I don't know how he would have known about the multiverse, but I do like the fact that he was able to explain it. I also loved the use of spaghetti. So that's 2 multiverse movies that we've had with spaghetti.
this one was
turned into spaghetti though.
Hey, but I guess I didn't understand some of the choices that they made with him. First off, and I'm okay with the change. Like I said, he was a good version of Batman, but in the original Flashpoint, it wasn't Bruce Wayne as Batman, because again, the Flash had caused so much change. It wasn't that he had just turned him into a different actor. It was that Bruce had been the one that was shot, and it was Thomas Wayne that was Batman. Again,
And-
totally okay with the change. It's fine.
the only reason why I wish it would have been the one thing that they did in the Flashpoint comic, which I think helped why Thomas Wayne would help Barry Allen,
Mm-hmm.
because Barry tells him, Bruce is Batman in my universe.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas is like, I need to get you back there. I am willing to sacrifice myself to make sure that my son lives. And they didn't have this here. You know, he's basically like, yeah, I'll help you destroy this universe because, you know, there was a line from a movie back in '89 where I say, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Yeah.
And we'll use that. I was
And
like,
then I didn't understand why, you know, he wasn't taking care of his mansion, why he had the long beard and the long hair, and it's like, oh man, he must have like, did he lose? And he's like, oh yeah, no, there's no crime in Gotham. It's like, I'm sorry, what? Wait, no crime left in Gotham. What did you do to yourself, man? Like, I didn't understand that choice. It was like, I could get it, like if he had finally like lost too many times and he had a like the opening episode of Batman Beyond where he finally, you know, has to resort to picking up a criminal's gun because he's finally beaten so bad because he, you know, he's got a bad back, bad knees, he can't be Batman anymore. I could understand if that had been the situation, but when he was just like, oh yeah, no, there's no crime, so I'm bored. What?
Yep. I stopped all the crime because I'm awesome, and now I just sit here.
'Cause
and
I'm Batman. I don't know. I mean, like I said, he was good in the role. He was probably the best part of the movie, but it had its issues too. You know,
yeah.
a lot of it
Yes.
didn't make a whole lot of sense.
And once again, the final battle.
Oh,
Not
when
only
they
the final
shoehorned
battle.
in-
No, but
Oh,
the terrible CGI in the final battle,
ugh.
including the terrible CGI when they're in the Speed Force
Speed
changing
Force,
time,
yeah.
and all of the cameos and stuff. I was like,
So bad.
totally pulled me out of the movie again, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Yep.
I am like,
Yeah,
Dave
so-
is right. The multiverse has to end.
Oh, it was
Thank
so
you.
stupid.
Thank you.
And okay, here
To
is
me,
my
Kate
favorite
was
part
worse.
about that. Okay, normally what happens? Think back to all of the movies where we've seen where they've had some sort of, you know, big cameo appearance or, you know, something fantastic happens in the movie. What did everybody do when Captain America caught Thor's hammer? Yeah. What did everybody do when Nicolas Cage showed up as Superman?
Silence.
Silence. I don't know if that happened to you, Keith.
It
In our
did.
theater, crickets.
Yep.
It
And I didn't like it
was-
when Christopher Reeve showed up either.
No.
I mean, I just felt like I was watching a bad
clip show
version
of-
of No Way Home.
Yeah. It was. I'm like, why are they doing this? Like, it was the same argument that I had when they showed us Childish Gambino twice as the Prowler,
Yeah.
live action in No Way Home, and I'm like, all right, the first time was cool. It was a nice little callback, but then doing it the second time, it was like, all right. And then I know a lot of other people liked seeing all of the scenes and the clips from the other Spider-Man movies. It didn't do it for me, and I had the same exact reaction seeing all of it in this movie too. First off, why were we seeing so many Supermen? Like, why was that the thing they were honing in on?
Well, and the thing for me too, I was the same
The
way.
Flash
2
movie.
scenes with Crispin Glover, or not Crisp. Oh my God,
Crispin Glover. That's Back to the Future stuff. Donald Glover, maybe?
Donald Glover. Yes, I was the same way in Across the Spider-Verse. I didn't need it, but I didn't mind the scenes where they were showing because they're like the Canada event, Uncle Ben dying, and they were kind of showing him, and they didn't linger on him too long. And with No Way Home, they had not a great premise, but a fairly believable premise that this, the spell went awry, and everyone who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man was coming into this universe, which would include, other Spider-Men, and why the villains from the other movies were coming in. But this, it was like, oh, we screwed up the multiverse. We're going to just show a bunch of weird cameos
Yep.
that are all CGI of people who have passed away, possibly, or movies that never got made because we think this is going to get us a big hurrah. And it
Yeah.
failed to do that.
They had a moment in there where Michael Keaton, I think it was when he said, "I'm Batman," that they had a pause so that everybody could go, everybody in the theater could cheer, and nobody cheered. It was
No,
just like-
because they were watching the same movie that we were. They were
Yeah.
just like, no, you haven't earned it.
you don't get the, you didn't earn the woo, you didn't earn it.
Mhm.
So they don't just drop out of the sky because you have them say 2 lines from a movie from 30 years ago.
The girl who was watching her phone, she said woo, but it wasn't at the Flash.
Yeah, she was, it was something completely different.
There's something on her phone.
And now, there was one scene that I thought was the best in the movie.
Okay.
It was the scene between Barry and his mom at the end of the film.
Okay.
I was like, wow, they actually did a really good job on this. It was very
I told
heartfelt.
Dave.
Was
that choked
emotional. Yeah.
Really?
I was like, how did this do this so well? And the rest of the movie was just utter nonsense throughout. I just thought when he, approached his mom and she's like kind of looking at him, like takes his glasses off, like she kind of recognized him but is not really sure.
Yeah.
And I was
know
like,
she knew who he was.
yeah. I was like, that was very heartfelt. I'm like, I'm glad they added that because that's almost the only silver lining that I could find in this whole movie. Because they actually executed that scene, in my opinion, well. And I was like,
You know why
it-
it worked for me? I thought about this, and I think the reason why it worked so well for me is because this movie was so devoid of any emotion. It was so shallow, so like the scene that Dave pointed out where they're pausing. You gonna cheer for us? Ah, right. It's like there's so much stuff like that in this movie that when they did something and it felt like they had actually followed a script where it was actual actors who were acting, and it was like the only moment in the movie where they did that. I was just like, all right, movie, you did it. The bar was so low, the bar was
Yep.
at the bottom of the ocean, that one scene did it for me because everything else was so terrible.
it actually seemed like Ezra Miller was upset that he had to let his mother go to save the multiverse. That was like the only bit of acting he did in the entire
Yeah.
film that I was like, that's good. Okay. Excellent.
See, I didn't like that scene. I thought,
Well, you're heartless.
I am. I'm a dick. And she just he's a complete stranger to her. I know that on some level, they say if since it's actually her son, that she would see it. But she just gave him so much affection for someone she does not even know. I didn't like that. But the worst part of it wasn't that part. Was that, all right, he just went through this whole thing, realized that every time he tries to change the past, he destroys the universe.
And then he goes and does something anyway.
Yeah, so he goes and moves the tomatoes to the top shelf so his dad can look up. Why wouldn't that have the same exact effect?
Well, it did. It brought Clooney into the universe.
Yeah, and that just destroyed the universe. Yeah.
But no, you're not wrong. It does make me wonder, was the fact that just his mom died, that was still enough to push him into the forensics field?
I guess. Well, and remember, his dad didn't get off until 30 years later. There's a better way to say
right.
that. His dad wasn't released from
I forgot
prison.
about that.
Once they could clean up the video.
Camera footage.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was just enough to still get him to be the Flash. A terrible Flash, but a version of the Flash, I guess. Technically.
After seeing this, I am hoping especially, I never root for a movie to tank. But since this one is, I really hope we no longer have to hear Ezra Miller is going to continue to be the Flash in the DCU. Recast now. Bring in Grant Gustin. As much, I like that show when it first started. He still did a much better job as Barry Allen in The Flash than Ezra Miller did. So I hope.
Gentlemen, I didn't even have to buy a popcorn tin. It
Did
just
you not?
failed on its own.
I was talking to Keith 838 before you came in, and I said, I hope there's not a tin out there that he's going to buy.
There wasn't. They didn't have any that I saw.
Oh, I saw 10. They had a Flash on one side and Keaton's Batman on the other.
Huh.
Just think how bad it would have been if you would have bought it. Oh my God, I can't even imagine.
Oh, it could have been worse. Oh no.
It did worse than Black Adam, by the way, in opening weekend.
Oh no.
Did worse than Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Did like 80 million less than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
That is so sad. It's so funny and so. What a shit show.
I only think they knew the fact that they were obviously letting a bunch of people see this. Tom Cruise, Stephen King, all these guys who saw it early. Unless they really did like it, they needed this movie to do well opening weekend because I think they knew it wouldn't have legs because no one could watch this movie and think audiences are going to rave about it. It was so
bad,
lackluster. The flow of the movie was terrible. The pacing was bad. The jokes were terrible. The CGI was bad. There was very few redeeming qualities about this movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, Keith, with all of that said, what do you rate this movie?
I was thinking I didn't have to give it right after the movie, so I thought a lot about it. With all of the things, the first thing being, I said at the beginning of this, the cardinal sin for me in a movie is making the main character unlikable. And they did that. Worse than they did in Morbius, worse than they did in some other movies. The jokes were all stale, the CGI was terrible, the movie didn't flow. This is probably the lowest rating I will ever give a movie.
Wow.
I am giving it a 2.5 out of 10. I will never. I will.
Lower than me?
Yeah. I don't think I will ever watch this movie again. It would have to be on, and I am unable to move to the remote to turn it off because there was no redeeming. There very few, not enough redeeming qualities in it. Like Keaton and Sasha Calle, and that one scene that was pretty good at the end. It was all. I sat through this movie the entire time like it was not even near enough to make up for all the bad. And I thought, am I being too harsh with that low of it? But I don't think I am. This movie was one of the worst we have all seen together for this channel.
Yeah. It's worse than Tomb Raider. I'd still rate Morbius higher. Even the after credit scene was ridiculously stupid.
Oh my god, that was so bad.
So,
No, I'll just stay right here in this puddle. Okay, that's hilarious. You're Aquaman. Oh my god, that was so dumb. You know, you can crash on my couch. I'm just upstairs. No, I'm fine here in this puddle. Okay.
oh, I forgot about that scene. Oh, it was so dumb, Dave. Oh my god, I forgot about it.
Sorry to bring it back.
Yeah. I was mad I sat because I had to use the restroom, and I'm like, I'm sitting for the post-credit scene. I would have been better off going to the bathroom. But Attack on Show, he's right. He goes, I thought having Keaton back was going to make for a better opening weekend. Yeah, I think word of mouth spread fast that
Oh yeah.
don't see this movie.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I think, Keith, I think you were right. I think they knew that was going to happen. And that's why so many people were jumping out to say, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. It's the superhero movie to beat all superhero movies. It is the best thing you'll ever see. I think they must have known. They knew that it was going to be a stinker, and they had to get as many butts and seats as they could. But I don't know if Dave told you before we started up our stream. When we got into the theater, we were kind of looking around. We're like, whoa, it's kind of empty in here. This is weird. An opening night, and it was empty. We were like, what is going on?
It was like the post-COVID.
Yeah, it's very strange. We did not expect that because we figured, it would be like we were all thinking. Like James Gunn said, it's going to be amazing, and even my skeptical self was sitting like, all right, I don't think I'm going to like it, but James Gunn said it's good.
Yeah, Attack on Show asked, does that post-credit scene mean that he went back in time and changed things again, though? I don't know, because he was saying that Arthur was always Arthur, the same in all the universes, even though we never saw him. I don't know how he really knew that if he was just telling him that.
Hey, Keith, this is why. So the writer, when he was asked the same question, so what's the deal? I don't care. I do not care. Stop it! I don't care.
I hope this does not mean that Jason Momoa is going to stay on as Aquaman in the DCU, because I think it would be a tragedy to him not be Lobo. There's been so much hinting about it, and I mean, he looks the part of Lobo, and I think he would be.
I think he would be a
tremendous as
better Lobo than you You all know I wasn't a huge fan of Aquaman. It wasn't my favorite movie. I thank you for bringing me along to the free early screening. Still didn't like it.
Well, when I saw that after credit scene, I thought it would have been awesome if Momoa was Lobo in that scene. Now that would have been something to talk about, but that's not what.
Dave, how great would it have been if, as he's walking drunk, he puts his arm on Flash's shoulder and he says, "Who's your main man?"
That would have been fantastic.
Even if he wasn't going to be Lobo, just that little nod to the audience, that I would have cheered for. Or I would have given a slight woo.
That might have got it up to a 2.6 for
little,
me.
woo. Just a tiny little.
Well, we still got one more to sit through before it's all. No, two more. I'm sorry.
Two more, yeah.
We got Blue Beetle and we got Aquaman.
Blue Beetle, since it has no other references to the DCU so far,
That we know.
there's a chance for that movie. But Aquaman, I'm sure, is going to be right into the toilet.
It's funny because the Blue Beetle trailer was very
Not great?
lackluster.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I guess Aquaman 2 has gotten terrible screenings, like audience screening scores. And they're reshooting a bunch of it. So it sounds like
It's going to go out with a whimper.
it's going to go out with a whimper. Now, Attack on Show is saying Gunn said Blue Beetle is the new DC.
Really?
What?
I have
I
not
didn't
seen
know
that.
I hadn't seen
I
that
thought he
either.
said that.
The Superman
said
movie
something
was
about
supposed
this.
to.
Yeah,
Well, no,
he said
Creature
something about
Commandos kicks off the DCU.
Gods and Monsters. Yeah.
Yeah, he was saying that this Flashpoint is going to reset the universe, and then there's other two movies. But then really starts after that. But if he said that, I didn't see Blue Beetles being part of the universe.
I wonder if it's accidentally in the new DC universe because, like what you said, Dave, because it doesn't tie to anyone or anything in the current one, so they can just kind of shove it over and be like, "You're part of this universe now."
And if it
Especially-
flops, they don't even have to address it.
Yeah. I was going to say, it all depends on how it does. If it comes out and it's well received and makes a bunch of money, they can say DCU. And if it flops, DCEU.
Right.
You know, one more thing about those end credit scenes. I don't know. I may adjust. I really do think I need to adjust my score because I've been just stewing about The Flash over the entire weekend and how angry it made me and how I wouldn't say I was mad at the movie. I was very disappointed because I was promised it was going to be good and it wasn't. The reason why I'm hesitant to rate it lower than Morbius is because with Morbius, I was never promised that it was going to be a good movie. I knew from the get-go it was going to be a terrible friggin' movie. I knew that there was nothing that was going to be redeeming about it at all. I spent more time putting together the thumbnails for our videos for that than I think they did on the whole movie.
What did you rate Morbius?
Huh?
What did you give Morbius?
I think I gave Morbius a 3. I'm almost positive I gave it a 3.
I would have to see it again, but I think Morbius is probably better than The Flash.
Well, see,
And
I was more angry at Morbius. I was pissed at Morbius because with Morbius, they kept telling us, oh, it's going to tie into Superman or Spider-Man. Oh, it's going to tie into the Venom. Oh, it's going to... Oh, there's Michael Keaton. Oh, he's going to be the Vulture. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what direction is it going to go? Like, I know this is going to be a shit show, but what is the mystery? Like, what universe is this in? And then when none of it mattered, and then at the very end, they tried to somehow turn the Sonyverse into... It made me so mad that they attempted to grab an MCU villain and put them into Sony's Sinister Six because they are so rock hard for Sinister Six. And it's like, no. Stop it. You leave them alone. Did nothing to you. Don't touch it. Bad Sony. And I was so mad at that movie.
So you want to lower your rating for The Flash? You were saying?
I do want to lower my rating for The Flash, but I don't think I would ever put it lower than Morbius. Maybe at the same level, maybe even slightly higher. They were both bad, but I was disappointed in The Flash. I was visibly angry at Morbius. Because, especially that end credit scene. Morbius was stupid throughout, and it felt like a complete waste of my time. I could have gotten up and gone to the bathroom and then watched a bunch of videos on my phone, and I would not have cared. That movie made me so angry at how terrible it was, and how it made zero sense.
Matt Smith is a great dancer now. Come on.
But,
Yeah, that scene alone got it up,
but what
half a
sealed
point.
the deal, what sealed the deal was that end credit scene. The fact that if I wouldn't have seen it, if we wouldn't have stayed in the theater, I might have rated it a little bit higher. But the fact that I saw that and what they did, look at that bastard goodbye boy. That's why I was just like, no, this movie is the worst. I think I rated Morbius a 3. I'm not sure. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and watch our at the theater review. Hey, you should too.
We all should.
Hey.
I really think The Flash is a worse movie than Morbius.
It is.
Like there
Yeah, but
was
I
The
think
Flash was so incredibly disjointed, where
But you
Morbius.
fell harder, you fell from higher up. You both were hyped more for this movie than I was. I didn't have very far to fall.
Yeah, no, that, and I probably would have rated the movie a little higher if we had to do it right outside the theater. But I was able to stew on my anger throughout the weekend. Like how, once again, they the same issue with The Flash and Morbius. I did not like the main characters, and I can't enjoy a movie where I don't like the main character. But I think in Morbius, at least, the plot was a little more linear, and it wasn't as thrown together and seemingly changed 50 times throughout the filming. And like I said earlier on, we apologize for the negativity on this stream, but we're not always like this.
But sometimes
normally we're really positive.
Sometimes you just get a golden piece of crap.
Okay, so at the theater, I rated The Flash 4.5. I am willing to drop that down to the same rating as Dave's at the theater, 3.5. Because I stewed on it over the weekend, and I grew to hate it even more. So I'm dropping it a whole 10 points.
That's 1 point.
Whatever.
Well, if you want to make it negative, we can do that.
I don't math, okay?
Yeah. Nobody said we were going to be doing math on this stream.
Dave, are you keeping your 3.5 rating, or are you lowering it?
Yeah. I'll keep it at 3.5 just because I don't want to think about it anymore.
It's probably the smartest thing done today.
That's very smart.
And don't forget to hit us up at Twitter, leave a comment down below, and we will see you next time on Not Your Status Quo.